and do not necessarily reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
All right, what's going on, everybody? A very happy Monday. I hope everyone had a great weekend out there. It is PTL time. I hope you all missed me. It's good to be back on a Monday. Thank you so much for being here. And we got a lot to get to today. Of course, all of you check in, listening, watching. It could be the Occupy Democrats Network, the Washington Press Network. We're on so many different platforms now. It's so great. Of course, X, my personal YouTube page, at PTL Radio Show. Check out the website, pushingthelimits.live. So a lot to get to. Don Lemon's going to be joining us here in just a few minutes for a lot of different reasons. One of his videos went viral. I'll explain here coming up in a few minutes. And, of course, he's from Louisiana, so we're going to talk about New Orleans. Today, no insurrections, believe it or not. No left insurrections. No, the Democrats didn't storm the Capitol today, but we're going to be talking about the 4-year anniversary of January 6th, a day that a lot of MAGA Republicans would like you to forget. And, oh, yeah, Donald Trump plans on pardoning all those, including those who physically assaulted police officers that day. And we're going to be talking about people who died because of that day. So we'll be sharing all of that. And again today, more disgraceful behavior from Republicans. We're going to get into this a little bit. Have you seen the video of Nebraska Senator Deb Fischer getting sworn in Washington, D.C., where Kamala Harris extending her hand to shake Bruce Fischer, Senator Fischer's husband, and Bruce Fischer refused to shake Kamala Harris's hand? Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, because a lot of people on the MAGA right are praising him for not shaking Kamala Harris's hand. Let me start out by saying, even if that was Donald Trump that was swearing somebody in on the other side, I would say the appropriate thing to do is to shake the hand, whether it be the president or the vice president. It's called having any sense of human decency at all. Kamala Harris, this has to be a difficult day for her, but she's doing her job, and she's showing decency in class. Why? Because she's a decent person. That's why. And I'm wondering why this old, crusty, white Republican refused to put his hand out to shake Kamala Harris's hand. I'm going to venture a guess it really doesn't have a lot to do with policies that he might disagree with her on, and it just might have something to do with the color of her skin. It might just have something to do with that. You see, ladies and gentlemen, there's a time and a place where you should be willing to put your political differences aside for the country. Your wife is being sworn in. It's a special moment there. At least it should be a special moment. And it shouldn't matter whether it's a Republican or a Democrat that is swearing you in. But unfortunately, there are many on the MAGA right that are looking at Deb Fischer's husband as some sort of hero because he didn't shake Kamala Harris's hand. And you see Harris and her body language, and she kind of shrugs it off and she says, okay, and she kind of raises her eyebrows. That's probably the way that I would have reacted as well. I mean, he's a complete imbecile. Let me just call him for what it is. Deb Fischer's husband is a moron, okay? He's an imbecile with no class, making the moment about him, when, by the way, the moment is about his wife getting sworn in, and he made it about him. That's a moment where it's about the country. But anyway, we will talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on in the program. So there is a video that went viral, and the video that went viral is lucky enough to call him a friend, of course, Don Lemon. And Don is criticizing those that are huge MAGA supporters in the context of this video, farmers that are upset now because we hear about this deportation and 20 million immigrants are going to be deported. And a lot of these farmers are upset at that. And Don Lemon put out this video, which I thought was hilarious. And there is some strong language in there, but a lot of language sometimes that I use. And I want to play this video for you. This is Don Lemon talking about some of these farmers that happen to be huge MAGA supporters that are now second-guessing their decision to support Donald Trump.
Some farmers say without these workers, they have about 2 days that they can run their farms. And then after that, it's over. Oh my God, I love this. Now you're finding out, you dumb. idiots. Now you're just figuring this out. You're so stupid and you deserve it. You deserve it because you're so dumb.
All right. I love that. I think it's funny. He's right. Like, wow, maybe I'm rubbing off a little bit on Don Lemon. That sounds like Shapiro. I don't know. But anyway, Don Lemon show, who I love. I love that video. Don Lemon, nice enough to be joining us right now. Don, what happened, man? That was great.
So can I clarify a little bit? By the way, how are you? And I think you are rubbing off on me. And just so you know, I am in Louisiana right now. My sister's in the hospital, so I'm calling you from actually her hospital room. She's getting better. So thank you, everyone.
I'm sorry to hear that. I hope
out.
hope she's okay.
Thank you. She is. So let me clarify. So this all started with the H-1B visa thing. And I said there's a correlation between the H-1B and what's happening with people who are in the farming industry, who are dairy farmers, who are in the service industry, who are in the construction industry. Like all of a sudden, these people are realizing that they now need immigrants. Like Vivek Ramaswamy and the Doge folks are now saying, we need these H-1B visa people. So now they're all figuring it out and they're all upset. So I was talking about the racist people online who were saying all of these disparaging things about Indian Americans. And I don't mean Native Americans. I mean Americans, India, people who come over on airplanes, take advantage of the H-1B visas and go into these high-tech fields. And now they're saying, we need these guys. We can't get rid of them. You know how most people come over, illegal immigrants, on airplanes and they overstay their visas. But yet we focus on the southern border. Why? Because it's the scary brown people. It's not the right kind of brown people that they want. So they say they're going to deport those people. And what I said was, you guys are such idiots. You don't know that if you try to deport these people, then our farming industries won't be able to stay open. The construction industry, the service industry, and you won't, people who keep groceries in the grocery store. It's like, they just don't understand how dumb they are with this MAGA brain voting against their own interests.
No, you're right, Don. They don't understand how the economy works. They don't understand how important these people are in this country. And the MAGA infighting, I don't know if that surprises you at all. The infighting among MAGA Republicans, even getting to a point where Elon Musk, as you know, I know you're not on X anymore, which was probably a smart move. And they're taking away blue check marks. The Laura Loomers of the world are not being able to get monetized.
Oh my gosh.
What do you make
Bannons of it all?
Yeah.
What do I make of it? Look, the infighting, we told you so. Republicans can't govern. All they can do really in this moment, look, I guess in the old days they could, but it's been for a while. And by the way, I'm not a Democrat and I'm not a Republican, but Republicans have a hard time governing. What they have a good time, an easy time doing is being obstructionists, because that's all they can say is what we're not going to do and what we're going to, the concepts of a plan that they're going to have, or that they're going to somehow repeal and replace Obamacare, but they like the Affordable Care Act. They don't know the difference. They're just really, and look, I'm just tired of like beating around the bush. I'm not in legacy media anymore, so I don't have to worry about what the bosses are going to say and hold my tongue. They're just dumb. They just don't know. They don't know what they don't know. And so I'm tired of beating around the bush. And you know what? I have to say a couple salty words, maybe to get your attention. Maybe it's to voice the frustration of the American people who have been trying to tell you you're going to F around and find out. These people are voting against their own interests. They're being co-opted by a cult of personality, and they don't even realize it. Yeah, and so am I shocked? No. I'm surprised that I actually in some way agree with Laura Loomer. I'm sure you are too.
Yeah.
I never had that on my bingo card that I would agree with Laura Loomer that maybe these guys in Doge are into, are out for their own money and their bottom line, and they're not thinking about the American people.
I think what it is, I agree. And I think what it is, Don, is that a guy like an Elon Musk, can you imagine if you're an immigrant, you bring your family to this country, you're working for somebody like an Elon Musk, and you know that if you get fired, you and your entire family are going to be deported. You can treat those employees, I hate to use the term slaves, but I guess I will in this aspect of it, if you ask for a raise or if you say anything that you think might upset your boss, you and your family will be deported. What other word would you describe that? I mean, he wants to take advantage. The Vivek Ramaswamis and the Elon Musk want to take advantage of these workers and not treat them as they deserve to be treated, knowing that they have a strong arm on them. That's to me what this is all about.
Well, I will say that I will warn the people and I will caution them and encourage them to look at the record of the folks who are in charge, to look at their records on employees organizing, organized labor, on unions, on giving people a voice. I just did a thing today on this young lady who was down in New Orleans during the terror attack, and she got hit by a truck down in the French Quarter. The truck that the guy was driving with the lights off. She heard it. She tried to run, ran her over. She got up, managed to, then got shot. She had a bullet in her foot, right? And then you've heard the story. Amazon said she couldn't take a leave of absence. Now, just look at the records on these companies and see how they feel about organized labor and about the little guy. And if they actually care about the little guy, if they're trying to raise minimum wages, which is why, many of the folks who supported Donald Trump, many of the MAGA folks who would be in this position, how would they feel if something like that happened and they couldn't even get a leave of absence? She finally got it because of the outrage on social media. They think like, oh, I'm going to own the libs and he's going to deport all these people. Can you imagine if he tried to deport all these people? Do you know what would happen to the economy, Brian?
It would tank.
Do you know what would if you think the pandemic was bad, if you think the supply chain issue during the pandemic was bad, try to deport all these people and see if all of these rich guys in Silicon Valley, see what will happen if you try to get one of their H-1B people who come over and they have very little protections and no leverage. If they say you got to do this, then you've got to do it. You can't say I'm going to my union. My union says no. I don't have to do this in the contract. Like, okay, get your ass on a plane, excuse my French, and go back to where you came from.
Right. And is it interesting that 4 years ago Donald Trump spoke out against these visas? I'm sure you've seen the clips.
Oh, he said it was awful. He said
Right.
it was awful. I take advantage of them. We need to get rid of them immediately. They're terrible, terrible, terrible. And then all of a sudden now he says, oh, they're the best thing since sliced bread. I love them.
Yeah. Isn't it? And last question about this viral video you put out, which I thought was great, by the way. Don't you find it interesting that all these people, I mean, you're used to being attacked from the right, sadly, but they don't like the language you're using, calling them dumb. When you think of the language they use to talk about people like us, right? And people like you and the death threats you received when you were at CNN, and yet they're so up in arms and angry because you said the F word and you called them stupid. Right, Don? I mean, it's insane.
Well, I played on my show and on social media, I played their actual dear leader and some of the language he uses to talk about women. He calls Nikki Haley bird brain Nikki Haley. He calls Maxine Waters dumb. He has said disparaging words and maybe even worse about the vice president of the United States, Kamala Harris. He has called me dumb. He's called NBA players sons of bees. He's told people to get the F out of here. He's used the F-bomb. He's used all kinds of language. But when it comes to him, what they say is, we're not electing a pastor-in-chief. We're electing a president. But then you get upset. You have a higher standard for a former cable news anchor and an independent journalist than you have for the person who sits in the highest office of the land. What does that say about you? That actually kind of makes you a hypocrite, and it makes you dumb if you have that.
Yeah, he calls us snowflakes, but I think we know who the real snowflakes are.
It's a MAGA. MAGA is the biggest snowflakes, and they're also the biggest identity political group in modern history.
No question. So, Don, I wanted to ask you this question. I don't know if you saw the video of Deb Fischer's
I know what you're going to tell me. Her husband refusing to shake the vice president's hand.
Now, the first thing that
go on my social media if you're there and see what I said.
Okay, well,
go on ahead.
I have to check that. I didn't see what you said about this, and I should have. But my first reaction when I saw that video was, there is another, and I'm just going to say it, middle-aged, older, crusty Republican white dude who doesn't want to shake the hand of a black woman. And that's a situation where it shouldn't be about him, no matter what you disagree with Kamala Harris on policy or whatever it might be. That's a moment. It's your wife getting sworn in. Don't make it about you. Shake her hand. I would say the same thing if Donald Trump was up there swearing in people that were on the left. Shake his hand. Do it for America. Don't do it. Don't stop thinking about yourself. Right?
Yeah. I was, there was something similar. I forget the exact thing it was. It was at someone's funeral. I think it was at Barbara Bush's funeral or something like that. And, all of the terrible things that Donald Trump had said about the Bushes over the years, every single Bush. And he walked in and expected to get this, courtesy and respect from everyone there. And they did. They shook his hand. And I said, you know what? I wouldn't if someone talked about whatever me like that. But in this particular situation where you're being sworn in by the Vice President of the United States, who has not said anything to you personally about you or your family or anything, who has been the most decent person, I believe. This has been the most decent administration besides the Obama administration in a while. You never hear Joe Biden really saying bad things or terrible things. You don't hear Kamala Harris using the kind of language that Donald Trump uses. Yeah, and so I put it out there. I said, "F you, you piece of shit. You old racist piece of shit," because that's what he is. He's an old, crusty, racist man who doesn't even realize it. Can't even show this. Now, this is the sexism that goes on and the entitlement. He can't even show his own wife, who is an elected official, a public servant, enough respect to just seconds shake someone's hand. Imagine the kind of person that this old crusty bastard is. Imagine what he's like at home. Imagine how he treats people. Imagine how he treats women and people of color. If you can do that to a sitting vice president of the United States, what if she had said, "I'm not going to swear in your wife. I don't want to swear in your wife, and I don't have to." So, yeah, and look, we're going to deal with a lot of that. And I'm just going to call it for what it is. He's an old, crusty, racist, entitled, privileged white man who doesn't even understand what that means. And he gets all upset because of some rhetoric that, well, not even just the rhetoric of his dear leader, but just because that's what's inside of him.
That's the first thing that entered my mind, Don. And I come from a perspective of somebody who's white. And the first thing that entered my mind was race. And that to me is why he didn't shake her hand. I agree with everything you just said. I wanted to ask.
She was very respectful. And she's like, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
She kind of shook it off and like, okay, that's probably the way we would have reacted. And then deep down inside, we know why he's not shaking her hand. That's the MAGA Republican Party today, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, Don, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about New Orleans, and I know you grew up in Louisiana, and I thought about you when all this took place, and what a horrible tragedy, how horrific. And I hate to bring politics in this because, the first thing I spoke about was the victims and how young they were. So many, and then a man in a wheelchair who was already paralyzed who was hit, the loss of life, an 18-year-old, people in their 20s, their whole life ahead of them, right? And what do the MAGA Republicans do? Immediately, they start talking about, oh, it's a migrant. Marjorie Taylor Greene tweeting about it. Don Jr. tweeting about it. Donald Trump tweeting about it.
Oh, yeah, it's a border.
Yeah.
And
they want to blame it on
fake
policy.
Information. Well, part of it is a fake information that from Fox News, and Fox News had to end up retracting part of their story. But the other part is that they can't help but take advantage in a bad way of a tragedy, which is sad. The first words out of the former and president-elect's mouth should have been, "My heart goes out to the families, and we're going to give them all the resources they need, and to law enforcement and the people who helped out, and to the people who were injured and who lost their lives." That wasn't even the first or second thought. The first thing was to blame it on the Dems and on a lie that something that's not even true. It had nothing to do with the southern border. First of all, the man was an American citizen, and he's a veteran. So you know what that means? This is domestic terrorism. Mm-hmm. This is homegrown terror, which is the number one terror threat in this country. Now, we do have foreign terrorists. Unfortunately, he was co-opted by a foreign group, according to him. I think he had some issues, obviously. But for that's the first thing that came out of their mouth. Now, to the guy in Las Vegas, where you are,
yep.
They had no idea if it was terrorism or not. He was a white guy. They said nothing about it. I have not, unless I'm mistaken, it took him a while to tweet about it. Haven't heard anything. The guy pledges loyalty to Donald Trump and to MAGA and to he was driving a Tesla.
Right.
And he's like, I want to make a splash. And he's an Army veteran. And this Doge thing reportedly has said that they're going to cut some of the veterans' money or funds.
Right.
So go figure. He hasn't said anything. What does that say to you about the MAGA folks and about Donald Trump? Anytime there's a tragedy that can involve race, where they can be racist, race is going to race.
You're absolutely right. And not only that, but even the guy who committed this horrible terrorist attack in New Orleans, also a registered Republican. They can't blame migrants. And then I don't know if you saw this, Don. I know you're not on X anymore, but Libs of TikTok, which is a despicable Twitter account, X account, Then they started to blame it on black people. And they said, look at all these DEI hires in the FBI in New Orleans. So when the migrant argument wasn't working for them, then they try to blame black people. That doesn't work. They try to blame liberals. They try to blame Democrats. This guy was born in Texas, Don, as you know. He was born in Texas. He served the country. Now we need to find out why he was radicalized, what radicalized him, how did he get to that point? How could we
PTSD? PTSD.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And also, I forget, there was a right-wing kind of MAGA streamer, a podcaster, who was saying that they were, with this HB1 thing, that they were giving preference to non-traditional Americans, and they should be given. What does that mean? That means white people, right? They should be. So, and so when it comes to them, they believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion, because they don't think that the brown folks who are, as Vivek Ramaswamy said, smarter than them, not as lazy as them, should get these jobs first. And they said, no. We should be getting these jobs first, even if they're not as smart and as qualified as the brown folks. They believe in diversity, equity, inclusion for themselves,
right?
But not when it comes to black people. So blaming black people on diversity, equity, and inclusion it's just their way of saying, I am a racist, and I'm just going to make any excuse to be a racist.
Make America white again. I wanted to, speaking of race, if you remember the FBI, I think she's a spokesperson for the FBI who spoke at the press conferences, a black woman, and she had said it wasn't a terrorist attack. And then she made a mistake. And then a couple hours later, she corrected herself, right? She clarified, not a huge deal. And MAGA, they're going all after her for saying this wasn't a terrorist attack, yet it's totally okay for them to say that this was a migrant. And this was Joe Biden's open border policy. Mike Johnson the other day, Mike Johnson knows that this wasn't a migrant. He goes on Fox News the other day, still blaming Joe Biden and the open border policies, which, by the way, there is no open border. But what do you make of this? I mean,
Walls and who else? There was another one who did the exact same thing.
Oh, yeah, there's a plethora of Trump. Yeah.
What did I make of that? Look, especially, I'm not sure of the context of the one that she did. Anybody can make a mistake, and if you correct it, especially, and then in the beginning, as I know from covering breaking news for decades, situations always change. You get information that can be wrong in the beginning, and then it changes.
Sure.
So for them to call her out about getting that wrong when they got so much wrong about it is just, it's again, as I said, what does that mean? Race is going to race. That's what I lost my train of thought because I wanted to talk about the hypocrisy of them saying that I was going to say, and if they are criticizing her, have they seen Senator Kennedy and what he sounds like and looks like on the air?
I was just going to ask you that next.
With terrible information.
What do you make of that? At the press,
I'm here in Louisiana, and people are saying keep those two off of television because they don't know what the hell they're talking about, and they look like idiots, and they're making the people of Louisiana look bad.
Did you hear the joke he made during the press? I'm sure you did, at the press conference about a media company, and they happen to be on the right side of the room, and he makes a snarky attack joke about them. Meanwhile, 14 of his constituents are dead, dozens more injured, and he decides to take the mic and kind of pushes the woman off to the side. The black female who is the FBI spokesperson gets in there to get in a zinger. I mean, how despicable. And then you have the governor. I don't know if you saw pictures of the governor, who I think is also despicable, by the way, who is at an expensive steakhouse dinner that day.
My mom was telling me about, my mom's sitting right next to me. You said the governor was getting criticized for taking a picture of thumbs up at a steakhouse.
He's
right?
Smiling, Don. Your mom is right. And we just put the picture up. He's
they're
smiling.
all pissed off. Louisianans are pissed off, except for the MAGA brain dummies. They're all, they make excuses for everything. So don't even, I don't even just call them dumb. I don't even I give them no credence anymore because they're co-opted. They need to be deprogrammed. And I think it's going to run its course, especially during this administration. It's going to be F around. They F around and they found out. They're going to find out. But I mean, come on, Governor.
It's pathetic. Don, I love this. I love this even more, calling out aggressive Don Lemon. I have to say, I really am enjoying
Dark
this.
Lemon. Dark Lemon.
Dark Lemon. I like that.
That's what people are calling me, Dark Lemon. And I am brown. I don't mind it.
I'm White Shapiro. I guess that'll be my nickname today.
No, you're gonna be light, dark and light.
Dark and
We'll
light.
start. Maybe you should start a podcast called Darkness and Light.
I like that. I think that would work. Well, Don, I always appreciate when you take the time to do this show. Say hi to your mom for me, and I hope your sister's okay. And
my sister's okay. This perks her
yeah.
up because she's usually in the comments on all of my shows and on my social media.
Oh, that's cool.
So to be in here doing it this makes her feel good.
You're
she feels
a good
like
brother.
She's back in action. Thank
you're
you.
a good brother and a
Thanks,
good man.
Brian.
Don, good to see you, my friend. Take care. Thank you so
You be
much.
well. Take care. Talk to you soon.
Take care, Don.
Bye-bye.
There you go. That's Don Lemon, everybody. Dark Lemon. I kind of like that. I kind of like that nickname. I'm liking that. Listen, I've always had a tremendous amount of respect for Don Lemon, and I've told him that. I've said that on the air. I think he's a great journalist. I think he's great at what I don't think I know. Don Lemon is great at what he does, and he's very intelligent, and he's very morally grounded, if for lack of a better term, and he's just a good guy. And I'm liking him not working for CNN. I'm liking, even though I miss his show on CNN every night, because I think CNN after 5 p.m. has gone way downhill. They still have some talented people that work there, but he was great on CNN. But I like the fact that he doesn't answer to a boss now, and he could be a little bit more aggressive in his thoughts, for lack of a better term. And I agreed with everything he said, but I have to be honest with you. When I saw that video that went viral, I couldn't stop laughing. I thought it was awesome. So we appreciate Don Lemon for joining us. So everything Don said, and I mentioned it about Deb Fischer, Nebraska Senator Deb Fischer, her husband, who's obviously a racist bigot, who wouldn't shake Kamala Harris's hand. He can go to hell as far as I'm concerned. Today is the 4-year anniversary of January 6th. A day that was an embarrassing day for this country, and a day that will never be erased in history. And I also think it's important to know why all those people were there, hundreds of thousands, is because they believed in the big lie. And they believed Donald Trump when he said the election was stolen, which was never true. We knew it then, and we know it now. And if Donald Trump didn't utter those words, January 6th doesn't happen. For months leading up to January 6th, that day never happens if Donald Trump doesn't say the election was stolen. The way it is supposed to work is the way it worked today. Kamala Harris lost. Donald Trump won. A free and fair election. I don't like the result, but we accept it regardless. And she certifies the election results. Make no mistake about it, the reason why so many of those people were there were trying to overthrow a free and fair election, period. And there's a lot of people that lost their lives that day. And I know Ocasio-Cortez said at least 10 people died, but it's important to remember the victims, and it's important to remember all those people who died that day. Kevin Greeson and Benjamin Phillips both suffered heart attacks that day. And DC police also said that that day of the riot, 34-year-old Roseanne Boyland suffered a medical emergency and she passed away. We all know what happened to Ashley Babbitt. That was her own fault and her own making, and I'm not willing to get into any debates with anybody. Ashley Babbitt was shot is because she was trying to break through a window, and we saw the video. When she was told not to, a gun was pointed at her, and there were politicians that were about 10 feet away. Ashley Babbitt is dead because she was a fool who was radicalized and did it to herself. We all know what happened to Brian Sitnick, and there were a lot of people that said, oh, well, his death the next day had absolutely nothing to do with it. This was a very, very healthy young man who died the next day. And there is no question that what took place on January 6th played a huge role on his body. And my thoughts and prayers go out to his family. And then several days later, D.C. police officer Jeffrey Smith, only 35 years old, who was injured in the riots, just days later committed suicide. And his wife, Erin, told the Washington Post that it was related to the fear and panic that he experienced the day of the assault of the Capitol. If not for Donald Trump, all these people would still be alive today. I absolutely believe that. And then 6 months after the riot, Kyle DeFradig, 26 years old, 26 years old, took his own life. And another officer, Gunther Hashida. Now, these people, their family members have all said on the record that they changed, their mental health changed for the worse after that fateful day. I guarantee you all those people would still be alive today if not for what took place on January 6th. And make no mistake about it, it's not just the big lie. And he still will not concede the 2020 election because he's a petulant child. If he didn't say the election was stolen, which it wasn't, January 6th doesn't happen. And this had to be a very difficult day today for Kamala Harris. It couldn't have been easy. But she did something that she was supposed to do. She did her due diligence. She did her job. And that's exactly what should be done. Now, Trump is expected to grant clemency to over 1,000 convicted in connection with the January 6th attack, as well as hundreds more with pending cases. They call themselves the Law and Order Party. Really? Let's be clear. Let's be very clear what took place on January 6th. It was not Antifa. No, it wasn't. It was not the FBI. No, it wasn't. It was not BLM. It was MAGA. MAGA. How do we know this for sure? Well, if you look at every single court case of every single one of the individuals that were convicted of serious crimes that day, the overwhelming majority of them on their social media accounts, which were presented in courts, showed that they were a part of right-wing fringe groups, registered Republicans, the overwhelming majority of them that were huge Donald Trump supporters. And many of them even testified in court that they believed what Donald Trump told them. And some of them have admitted that they've been radicalized and they wish they didn't listen to Donald Trump. MAGA was responsible for what took place on January 6th and nobody else. They believed the big lie. They were brainwashed. Officers were beaten with their own batons. Over 150 officers were injured that day, some with very serious injuries, some with traumatic brain injuries. Some of them lost fingers. And as I mentioned, some of them lost their lives. There were people that defecated on Nancy Pelosi's desk. There were people that stole property in some of those offices. Many of them broke in, destruction of property. So as much as MAGA want to forget about what took place 4 years ago today, it can't happen. They want to erase history, just like they want to erase slavery that took place in this country. It's why they're banning books, or at least part of the reason why they're doing that. Kamala Harris showed what she always shows, what I've always said about her. She is a woman of class and dignity. She is a family woman, and she has decency. Can you imagine how difficult this day must have been for her? How close she was to becoming the next president of the United States and the first female. And she knows she was that close. But she did her job today. She showed decency while crusty old white men that happened to be Republican refused to shake her hand. This is the difference between the Democrat Party and the Republican Party, and what Hakeem Jeffries said the other day was absolutely accurate. While you can question things, there are no Democrats that I know of that are in office today or in D.C. today that are saying that Donald Trump did not win a free and fair election. In fact, they're saying the opposite. So we have one side of the aisle that only loves their country when their guy wins, and we have another side of the aisle that loves their country whether their side wins or loses. That is the difference in 2024 between the Republican and the Democrat Party, period. And for those of you out there that have a problem with Joe Biden giving the Medal of Freedom to Michael J. Fox, which took place. And by the way, if there's anybody that deserves that medal, it's absolutely Michael J. Fox. When you look at what he's done for Parkinson's and how much money he's donated and his charitable foundation and the lives that he has saved for what he has done, He absolutely deserved this award. However, I want to play for you a man who Donald Trump gave the Medal of Freedom Award to, a man by the name of Rush Limbaugh, who died of cancer, but I believe throughout his life, he was a cancer to society. This is the guy who Donald Trump gave the Medal of Freedom to, mocking Michael J. Fox, calling him an actor when it came to his Parkinson's. Have a listen to this.
In this commercial, he is exaggerating the effects of the disease. He is moving all around and shaking, and it's purely an act. This is the only time I have ever seen Michael J. Fox portray any of the symptoms of the disease he had. He can control himself enough to stay in the frame of the picture, and he can control himself enough to keep his eyes right on the lens, the teleprompter. But his head and shoulders are moving all over the place. So this is really shameless, folks. This is really shameless of Michael J. Fox. Either he didn't take his medication or he's acting.
No, the person that is shameless is Rush Limbaugh, but this is the type of language that he used on the air every day. Going after Michael J. Fox, who suffers from Parkinson's and suffers from that every single day. And Rush Limbaugh is calling him an actor. To me, that's no better than what Alex Jones said when he called all those families and the victims of the Sandy Hook shooting actors. In today's day and age, if Rush Limbaugh talked like that, he would be sued and he would deserve it. Just like what happened to Alex Jones. Rush Limbaugh was despicable. So the man who got the Medal of Freedom literally attacking Michael J. Fox for acting with his mannerisms, which clearly he wasn't. What a despicable thing to say. I mean, that's like calling a quadriplegic an actor saying, oh, he can walk. He's just doing that for effect. That's literally what Rush Limbaugh did. And he said it on the air. Imagine the things he said behind closed doors. Make no mistake about it. Rush Limbaugh was a despicable human being, and I hope he's burning in hell. And I mean it. I hope that Rush Limbaugh has to listen to drag queen reading 24/7. And I hope everybody is passing out painkillers, and the only person that doesn't receive them is Rush Limbaugh. I hope he's looking down from hell. I really do. Or up above, wherever hell is. What an awful, awful human being Rush Limbaugh was. And the world is a better place without him on it. And I am so glad that Joe Biden gave Michael J. Fox that award, because he absolutely and positively deserved it. So in closing, we can never forget about this day on the 4-year anniversary. MAGA Republicans would like you to forget about this day. I named the people who lost their lives, every single one of them, with direct evidence that what took place on January 6th certainly helped lead to their deaths. And I wish that wasn't the case, including Ashley Babbitt, but it was her fault of her own. And if Donald Trump didn't say the election was stolen, January 6th doesn't happen, period. It doesn't happen. And now Donald Trump is the guy saying that there isn't a peaceful transfer of power. I'm not making this up. You can look it up. Donald Trump is claiming that Joe Biden is not giving the Trump and his administration a peaceful transfer of power, when it was Donald Trump who made it more difficult than any president in the history of this country to have a peaceful transfer of power, and all that chaos during COVID. That was Donald Trump. But yet Joe Biden invites Donald Trump to the White House, and Donald Trump is crying, he's not letting me have a peaceful transfer of power for me and my administration. It is a joke. It is a sick joke. But folks, Democrats won't be storming the Capitol today. There won't be a liberal insurrection. People are not going to die today. Nobody's going to be beating Capitol police officers today. And nobody is going to be screaming, hang Kamala Harris. Okay, there won't be people on the left that'll be screaming that, not wanting her to certify the election. There's not going to be a fake electorate scheme across the country today like we saw 4 years ago. Again, because there is a party that is willing to admit that they lost a free and fair election. And there is another side of the aisle, the MAGA Republican Party, that many of them still don't admit that Donald Trump lost a free and fair election in 2020. That is the bottom line here, ladies and gentlemen. Kamala Harris has handled this day with class. And I think we can all be proud in the fact that our vice president handled this situation about as well as she could have. And if the Republicans want to continue to embarrass themselves, they can go ahead and do that. Now, maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you're one of those people on social media that thinks I'm wrong. Maybe you disagree with what took place, what I said on January 6th, even though I'm giving you guys facts. But that's okay, because here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open up the phone lines, whether you're a Trump supporter or not. Are you okay on this day, January 6th, 4 years ago? Are you okay with Deb Fischer's husband, a crusty old white dude who clearly is a racist, refusing to shake Kamala Harris's hand? Are you okay with that? And I also ask you guys, what do you remember about 4 years ago? What do you remember most vividly of what took place 4 years ago? What stands out to you the most? What bothers you the most? And do you think we'll ever see another insurrection, anything like we saw in 2020? Those are my questions for you. Before I take some phone calls and take a break, I do want to remind all of you, please check out my website, pushingthelimits.live. And if you're a fan of what I do, then I would ask you all to please go on there. We sell merchandise at pushingthelimits.live, but there's also a donate button right on the front page. We are an independently owned radio show, so we rely on your support. So whatever you can do, we appreciate. And also, of course, my good friends at Jackson's Bar and Grill, the official gaming bar of the PTL radio show, including the Pass the Puck contest, where if you're playing a slot machine there during a Vegas Golden Knights game, you'll have a chance to win up to $500 in free slot play. Great food, great atmosphere. Please check them out, Jackson's Bar and Grill. So here's what we are going to do. We're going to take a quick 90-second break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask all of you, what does this day mean to you, January 6th? What do you remember about 4 years ago? What bothers you? Maybe you defend Donald Trump. Maybe you think none of these MAGA supporters did anything wrong. Maybe you think that it's okay for Donald Trump to pardon over 1,000 people. So we're going to take a 90-second break, and when we come back, we'll take your phone calls on this. The number to call, 702-221-7283. Again, the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-SAVE, 702-221-7238. All right, 221-7238. Is that the right number? 83. Did I just get the number wrong? 702-221-7283. Did I say 38? I'm losing my mind. 702-221-7283. All right. 221-SAVE, even though I can't save some of you. So we are going to take a quick break. We'll be back in 90 seconds with your phone calls, the most interactive show in the Valley and across the country. We'll take a quick break. Your call's next. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercial, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most importantly, how to monetize your dream radio show. You'll learn from some of the best in the business with over 75 years in broadcast experience. You'll learn from people like me. And the best part? Every single student will be live on the radio as part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call. 702-763-5024. That's 702-763-5024. Or check them out at RadioYou101.com.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure having Don Lemon join us. I just think he's great. And he even admits that I'm rubbing off on him a little bit. He's calling those in the MAGA contingent stupid and other names, and I think it's great. I like this new Don Lemon. I really do. I'll be honest with you. Couple great guests we have joining us tomorrow. So a woman by the name of Charlene Riddle, she literally missed, thank God, the truck that killed 14 people and injured dozens by a few feet. There's actually video of her and her husband pushes her out of the way, literally a split second before the car comes through. The video is unbelievable. She's going to be joining us. I mean, her life right before her eyes, right? Her husband saves her life. She's going to be joining us on the show tomorrow. I believe this is her first national interview. So we'll be speaking with her tomorrow. And a great social media follow. One of my favorites is Aaron Rupert. There's a reason why he has such a huge following. The clips he puts up and his political commentary are great. He's going to be joining us on the show tomorrow as well. So big show lined up for you tomorrow. I believe JoJo from Jers is going to be joining us later on in the week, and some more very special guests and surprises coming up. So I told you I would get to the phone calls, which I am right now. And what are your thoughts on January 6th, 4 years ago today? What stands out to you the most? What do you make of this Nebraska senator's husband of Deb Fischer refusing to shake the hand of Kamala Harris? I mean, what a despicable human being. What a despicable act. As much as I can't stand Donald Trump, if he was having people put their hand on the Bible and swearing people in, I would say shake the man's hand, because it's not about you, it's about the country. And the fact that those on the MAGA right are calling him some sort of hero for doing this. Oh, he speaks for all Americans. No, let me be very clear. He doesn't speak for most Americans. He speaks for MAGA bigots. That's who he speaks for. Your thoughts on that as well. And January 6th. 702-221-7283. Let's start off with Al. Al is first up on PTL. Hello, Al.
Hey, Brian, thanks for taking my call. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And, first of all, I think it's wrong that he didn't, I wish, even though I don't like Kamala Harris and I don't like Biden, I would have shaken their hands, because I think you're right. It's for the country, and we have to show unity. I definitely agree with that statement. I think that Don Lemon, him using that kind of language, I don't think it's necessary. I mean, are those the manners that his parents taught him? I mean, is this him? I mean, what is up with that?
Okay, so let me respond to that. Okay, so let me respond to that. So you don't like somebody using the F word. You think it's inappropriate.
Well, not in that kind of I mean, in private with your friends.
Okay, so
say,
so you wouldn't
happen,
so that bothers you.
But,
then
just to blatantly throw it out there like that.
Okay, well, what about Donald Trump saying if you're Jewish and you don't vote for me, then you need to get your head examined? What about calling Mexicans rapists? What about attacking women on looks?
He's not using He's not using F.
Oh, he's not? Okay. What about grabbing women by the genitals when he bragged about sexual assault in a bus? That's the guy that you voted for. Donald Trump, Don Lemon.
Just because I voted for it doesn't mean, I think that's kind of wrong too.
Okay, but Don Lemon's not running for president.
That doesn't mean that just because Trump does that, it doesn't mean that
it bothers you.
Can go on and do that.
So it bothers you when Don Lemon calls somebody who's a big MAGA supporter who got duped effing stupid. But you have no problem voting for the leader of the free world, a guy who bragged about grabbing women by the genitals. Do you understand where I'm going with this? Why can't you be consistent?
Not really, because...
Not really.
Since when? Okay, I still think he's a better leader. I told you. The reason I voted for him is because I think he's a better leader than
Give me some of his leadership qualities. Like, for example, half of his administration last time around didn't support him. He says he only hires the best people, many of whom have literally spoken out against him and actually supported Kamala Harris. If you want to talk about leadership qualities, I'm happy to have that conversation with you. The guy who still says he has concepts of a health care plan and he's had 9 years to come up with a plan. Let's talk about January 6th for a moment, since it is the 4-year anniversary. If Donald Trump doesn't say that the election was stolen months leading up to January 6th and doesn't say that the Democrats cheated and Joe Biden cheated, by the way, they didn't. Does January 6th happen? Is Ashley Babbitt still alive? Brian Sitnick? And does January 6th happen? Yes or no?
Well, the thing is that he is not responsible for the people showing up.
Not what I asked you. Not what I asked you.
Illegally, so. But that's not. But
not what I asked.
Whether it does or whether it doesn't make him responsible.
Okay, but can you answer my question, because you didn't? Forget about whether you think he's responsible or not, which obviously I would disagree with you on. But does January 6th happen if Donald Trump doesn't lie about the 2020 election? It's a very
no,
simple...
not necessarily. No.
Okay.
The only reason it happened is that he invited everybody down there, and everything got out of control.
And the people that he invited.
And a lot of us think that Pelosi was, and you may disagree with it. We think Pelosi was responsible for and for not putting enough. And the mayor for not putting enough police there.
Well, 7 out of 10 Republicans.
That's my opinion. So
7 out of 10.
You can have your opinion.
7 out of. Well, you just said January 6th doesn't happen if Donald Trump doesn't say the election was stolen. And then in the same.
No, I did not say that.
Okay, you said it doesn't happen.
If he doesn't invite people to the.
Okay, Al, we're going to ask you.
People to an event.
Al,
I remember.
hang on,
I
Al.
was going to go.
Okay, hang on, Al.
I remember I was going to go.
I want to clarify because I thought you answered the question, but we're going to try one more time because it's yes or
go
no.
ahead.
If Donald Trump, months leading up to January 6th, doesn't say the election was stolen, Joe Biden cheated, and the Democrats cheated, does January 6th happen, regardless of your opinions of Nancy Pelosi? Does January 6th happen, yes or no?
I don't. I think it's irrelevant. I don't. No, it doesn't. It does. I mean.
Okay, so the answer is no. Of course.
I mean.
Okay.
That's not
Al,
I think the question doesn't make sense.
Okay, Al, the question completely makes sense, and I'll explain why. By the way, you did answer the question. You said no. That is the correct answer. It is no. It doesn't happen. Here's why it's an important question.
Doesn't make him
Here's why.
responsible.
Here's why.
Okay, go ahead.
Donald Trump lied. He intentionally lied. He didn't question the election. He lied about the election. He didn't question it. He lied. He said the election was stolen, which it wasn't, and people around him were telling him not to do that. He did it anyway. Now, if you lie and you say something that's not true, you get people riled up and angry. Hundreds of thousands of people showed up on January 6th because they wanted to overturn what was a free and fair election. The comments of chants of hang Mike Pence, all that stuff was because Donald Trump riled them up and they were brainwashed into believing that the election was stolen. Now, if you don't think Donald Trump was responsible, or you don't think it's dereliction of duty to sit his fat ass in the Oval Office for 4 hours and do literally nothing, and you would rather talk about Nancy Pelosi, and you don't think it's dereliction of duty as the president of the United States at that time to not even put out a video to say stop the violence. They begged him 3.5 to 4 hours. He literally did nothing. How do we know that? Because those
let me ask you this. Let me ask you a question. You asked me a question. Let me ask you a question. If we would have had more security there, enough to hold all those people back, does January 6th happen?
Clearly, there were a lot of security errors that were made.
Not enough, though.
I'm trying to answer your question as honestly as I can.
Go ahead.
Clearly, there should have been more people there, more security, and they were not prepared for what took place. However, there's a however in there. You've already admitted January 6th doesn't happen if Donald Trump doesn't lie. Number two, if Donald Trump had put out a video or came back out after the insurrection had started and said, I know all of you are upset and angry. Violence is not the answer. I need you all to go home. Make no mistake about it. Lives would have been saved. His wife, contractual wife, Melania, refused to put out any statement on social media, which is despicable and disgusting because that's who she is. She is a disgusting human being. Donald Trump, for 3.5 hours, was watching it on TV. He enjoyed what he was watching. Make no mistake about it. He was begged to put out a video or a statement. He refused to do so. So this is the guy who you decided to vote for, and this is the guy who you support, and he is the main reason why January 6th happened. Let me ask you a question now, since I answered your question. Do you think it's appropriate to pardon some of those people that are still behind bars for physically assaulting police officers? Do you think you should be pardoning everybody?
If they physically assaulted somebody, no.
It's not if, but it's not if. They did. There were people that did.
Those that broke the law and physically assaulted a police officer, yes.
Al, we agree. So, Al, we agree on that, okay? However, the man who you voted for and your party that likes to call themselves the party of law and order, the leader of your party wants to, and most likely will, pardon those who physically assaulted police officers. How do you feel about that?
Well, I first of all, we'll see when it happens. we're speculating at this point.
That's what he said.
But I think that
He said he's going to pardon everybody.
I think that. Well, hold on. Is he in office yet?
So it doesn't matter what Donald Trump. So it doesn't matter.
We'll talk about it when. Listen, I'll be more than happy. Well, let me finish. I'll be more than happy to call him out if it happens and you can prove.
Okay. So do you think he's
all
right? Fair enough, Al. That's fair.
And I'll send a message right now to Trump.
Okay, Al.
Trump, I am against that.
Al.
I'm sending him a message.
All right. I get you. Fair enough,
it.
Al. Fair enough. I'll hold you to that. I appreciate that. However,
okay.
Even if he doesn't do it, do you think it's appropriate to say you're going to do it? Imagine if Joe Biden, as he was coming into office, before he was in office, said, I'm going to pardon all those who committed violent acts during the Black Lives Matter protest.
Well, I don't know. Well, I mean, well, that's wrong. I don't know.
Okay.
Has Trump said that he's going to?
Trump
did he
said
specifically say
yes.
He's going to pardon those that are going to do violent acts.
Yes, he didn't clarify and say he was only going to pardon some. He said he was going to pardon all. So even at a minimum, then you're saying even if he doesn't do it, he's a liar.
Even if he doesn't do what? If he doesn't
pardon those who attacked police officers. He's planning on pardoning over 1,000 people, including those that still have pending cases. He said it on the record.
Well, it depends on. I think he's gonna. I think that maybe he didn't think it out. Well, we'll see. So my message to you: if you're going to be pardoning people that are hitting the police. Mm-hmm. Then you're wrong. I'm sorry, Trump.
Okay, let me ask you another. I agree.
My message to you, that's wrong.
I agree. Do you also think
people were there innocently? If they were just bystanders?
Okay, there's nothing. There's nothing. No. There's nothing innocent.
There's
nothing innocent or bystanders. You weren't allowed to be there. You weren't allowed to be there. You were breaking the law. But let me ask you another question. He called all those people patriots and hostages.
I think that might be. Maybe he didn't think it out well. I don't think that'll go down.
The people that are behind bars right now, many of them convicted already, serious crimes like assaulting police officers and destruction of property.
Well, I just said that.
Okay.
Brian, how many times do I have to say? If you assault an officer,
okay, but
that's it. You're going to jail.
I agree. But the man who
I
agree.
Happen to live for assaulting an officer.
I agree. But the Law and Order Party supposedly is okay with the leader of the party calling those individuals, those criminals, those terrorists, patriots,
like I said,
patriots,
like I said,
and Al, are they patriots?
To me, the message I'm sending out: you're wrong if you're going to be supporting, if you're going to be not prosecuting people who are
anybody. Okay,
wrong.
but let me take it a step further. Anybody who was prosecuted that day, are they patriots and hostages, like Donald Trump called them all?
Anybody who did?
Anybody who was convicted of a crime that day, would you call them patriots and hostages?
No. If you committed a crime, you're not a patriot.
Why do you think? Okay, I agree with you. Why do you think Donald Trump calls those that are still behind bars patriots and hostages? Why do you think that is?
I think maybe he hasn't really detailed things out. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that he's going to let people go. And I think that we should call him out. There were some people there. They were just for troublemakers.
Okay.
And there wasn't enough.
All right.
Police.
Well, we agree.
And those people. If I go, let me tell you something. Just this weekend, we had some homeless people that are staying in our private property at a townhome complex.
Yeah.
I live in a townhome complex, and I'm a neighborhood. I'm a community watch captain.
Yeah.
Okay, for our community.
Okay.
And I don't have the authority.
Yeah.
To throw those guys out.
Well, don't do what George Zimmerman
did. They're on
did.
my private property.
Yeah. Okay, Al, in closing, because I got to run to the next caller.
If I would have got mad at the police and hit them or hit that, guess what? Guess who's going to jail?
I understand. I wouldn't call you a patriot.
And they have every right to arrest me.
Donald, if you were wearing a MAGA hat, Donald Trump and MAGA would call you a patriot or a hostage. Al, I'll hold you to it. Well, call back when Donald Trump, comes into office, and we'll see who he pardons. I don't think anybody should be pardoned. That's my personal opinion, but I appreciate your call. Thank you, Al. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Shay. Shay is next up on PTL. Hey, Shay, what's going on?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
When I look at January 6th, Brian, I just think that you look at this Democratic Party, and I really look at the last 4 years, Brian, because I think this has been an absolute failure. I called back, I think, about a couple of weeks back, and I mentioned Merrick Garland, how he has been an absolute failure. how this justice system has been an absolute failure, that this man is still out in public, which he should be under the jail. And I think about how you're going to have somebody, we're going to get somebody, because I always thought Donald Trump is the test dummy. Because I think if it continues to go like this, we're going to get somebody that's going to be much more smarter, much more strategic, and probably we might be an authoritarian regime.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you something, man. Merrick Garland, man, he should be.
Oh, he's the worst.
He should be kicked out of the country.
Can I ask you something? By the way, I agree with what you just said about Merrick Garland. I agree with you. What do you make of? I don't know if you saw the video. Deb Fischer's husband, who refused to shake the hand of Kamala Harris today as his wife was being sworn in by Kamala Harris. What do you make of another crusty white Republican refusing to shake the hand of a woman of color? What do you make of that?
It goes back what I just said, Brian. You look at this Democratic Party, you look at the leadership, and I'm going to include Hakeem Jeffries too, because, Brian, I'm going to tell you something. I really want to see how Hakeem Jeffries operates the House for the next 4 years, because they have continued to treat these people like they're normal politicians.
Yeah.
I really believe they need to start. That Michelle Obama quote that she said, I totally disagree with that.
When they go low, we go high. Yeah, I disagree with it as well. That's not how you win right now. It's not how you win. Yeah.
They need to go lower. If I'm Hakeem Jeffries, I'm telling Mike Johnson, we are not going to help you.
Yeah.
By no means.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, my friend. Very well said. I appreciate your call, and I appreciate your perspective. Thank you. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Tony. Tony is next up on PTL. Hey, Tony, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, my friend. What you got for me today?
Well, first of all, I'll take a page out of Lemon's book and say that first caller, Al, yeah, he's effing dumb. So, it's like, I mean, think about, like, how could you consider someone with great leadership skills and then always keep saying, well, he hasn't thought it all the way through. Really? You want a president who hasn't thought things all the way through?
Yeah, clearly he hasn't.
That
doesn't. I agree. That doesn't sound like great leadership to me. Oh, that's an excuse for him?
Yeah.
Oh, well, he just didn't. You know what? It's funny how they curl themselves into pretzels, Tony, right? You have a guy who calls them hostages and patriots. They're the opposite of hostages and patriots. They're terrorists. And then, you have a guy who also says he wants to pardon all of them. And then the excuse from the right, from some on the right, are, well, maybe he just hasn't thought it through. I mean, it's laughable, man. Yeah, it's laughable.
It's ridiculous. And at the same time, wait, why does he want to pardon me? Aren't these people supposedly all Antifa and FBI agents? I mean, which is it?
You watch. If Trump has the opportunity to pardon some of these people, some of whom beat police officers, rolling batons, he'll be inviting them to football games. You watch.
Oh, I have no doubt. And in regards to January 6th, what kills me is I watched it happen in real time, on the news, on TV, on the internet. It was all over the place. The whole country saw it happen. And yet it blows my mind. Here we are 4 years later, that it's still up for debate as to whether or not it happened at all.
Yeah. Or even worse. Even worse. They say it's an inside job, right, Tony? Vivek Ramaswamy says it was an inside job. We heard it was Antifa. There were a bunch of FBI agents dressed up in MAGA hats, which, by the way, is proven not to be true.
To be fair to Ramaswamy, technically it was an inside job. The commander-in-chief of the United States orchestrated it.
Yep. They were screaming. You're right. They were screaming out, "Hang Mike Pence." That shows you how it's going to go for J.D. Vance if things don't work out well. It never ends well for those in Donald Trump's orbit, and it will not end well for J.D. Vance. It will not end well for Elon Musk or many others within Donald Trump's administration unless they're willing to go to jail for him. And there are not many people that are willing to go to jail for the orange orangutan. 702-221. Thank you for the call, sir. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Kim. Kim is next up on PTL. Hey, Kim. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian. How are you?
Good. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian. Matter of fact, Hal, he needs to think about calling out. Well, I want to say, because I was Don about saying a cuss word on his show when we watched Trump give BJ I want to a microphone in front of children and listen to him say filthy words in front of children.
Yeah, what was up with that?
Give me
We forget about that. Well, that was the. If that wasn't weird, I don't even know what is. That was very strange. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, give me a couple minutes. I want to tell you this about our son. He's 42 years old. He is first time. He is a veteran, U.S. Marine veteran of the Iraq War, and he's a self-made millionaire. And he moved to South Carolina. He did it all on his own. And first time when he voted for Trump, he went from Democrat, and when he moved to South Carolina, he said, "Well, I didn't realize how bad Democrats were until I moved down here." And he become better than his father, and I act like he's better than us. Yeah. And so when he moved down there, first time when he voted for Trump, we just blew it off, never said anything. So this time when he voted for Trump, and he thinks it's horrible because I believe in women's autonomy. I was a nurse, and he says that about abortion, and he never wanted children, so he married a woman that's 10 years older, and he raised her daughter.
Yep.
And so he, but if that daughter, that stepdaughter just got married, but if he ever catches that his stepson cheating on her, it's okay for him to go out and blow his brains out. And he told me that. I said, you would go out and shoot him. You're damn right. It will. I'll blow his brains out. Yeah. It's okay for that, but it's not okay for a woman to have an abortion.
It's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So the other day we had some words, and I said, Trump's this and that. He's Satan. He's 34 convicted felon. He's a rapist and this and that. And so he washed his hands of me. He said, I never want to hear it until he said, you guys need mental help.
Oh, geez. Well, let me tell you this. I thank you for your family and for the service, your son's service. But I got to tell you something. When you call out somebody for the things they've done in their life, for example, in this case, bad things, a liable sexual abuser, 30 women that have accused him of rape or sexual assault, the way he treats and talks to women, Gold Star families, you name it. And then the response from a MAGA supporter is, you need mental help? It's probably the dumbest response you could ever get. It's like saying, if I had a conversation with somebody and I said, the earth is round, and then he said, no, it's not. The earth is flat. You need mental help. You'd call that person a complete imbecile, right? And sadly, the person you're dealing with sounds like, with all due respect, an imbecile. You're calling out truths and facts about Donald Trump, and they just don't want to believe it because they're brainwashed. Thank you, though, for your family being a Gold Star family, and I appreciate you. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Phil. It's funny, all these MAGA buffoons on social media, they'll type with their little Trump fingers, but yet some of them are not willing to call in. I find that very interesting. All right. What do you make of January 6th? Let's go to Phil. Hi, Phil. What's up?
What's up, my man, Brian? But what I think of January 6th is a total disgrace to our country of what we've been through, how far we came. It's a total slap in the face. Since my granddad had been alive, he ain't never experienced nothing like that. Mm-hmm. Never. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy that they're possibly going to be free.
It is
and
crazy.
Back out.
Yeah, it is.
Be able to commit more crimes. It's crazy. And another thing, that first caller, he is an idiot, man. And it's plenty of them. It's plenty of them out here like that. And when you try to talk to them, just know I don't see no way that, with him, he's the type it ain't no getting through to.
It's very difficult to get through to some of these people. And there's somebody on social media who probably is a coward and afraid to call in. But somebody on social media said, I can't wait till Donald Trump pardons everyone. And the question I would ask that person, but they're not smart enough to call in and have a conversation. But I would ask them, why are you proud of the fact that if you beat a police officer in this country, you should be pardoned. Why are you happy about that? It shouldn't matter whether it was the January 6th insurrection or anywhere in society. If you beat a police officer with their own baton, why should you be pardoned? That is the question I would ask that individual, but they won't call in because they are cowards. Phil, I do appreciate you calling in, and I agree with everything you said, my friend. Thank you. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Terry. I believe Terry is next up on PTL. Hi, Terry. What's going on?
Hi, Brian. Love your show. I feel like I get a master class every day in how to deal with MAGAs from you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm just going to weigh in here on the insurrection. The things that disturbed me the most were the people with guns in trees, the chance to hang Mike Pence. Really?
Yeah.
And then they all got to leave. All of these people left. Can you imagine if that was a black, protest group or something?
I've heard that. I've heard people ask that. I think it's a very valid question. And my response to that is I think a lot of those people would have been out of there in body bags. That's what I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really feel that way. It would have gone down very differently.
Yes. Keep doing what you're doing, Brian. Love what you do. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, dear. I appreciate you saying that, and it's good to hear from you. You call back anytime. Thank you. 702-221-7283. Let's go. Okay, we're going to go to the MAGA Destroyer, the official MAGA Destroyer of the PTL radio show. MAGA Destroyer Darlene is next up. Darlene, you already have a large fan base among PTL fans. What's up, Darlene?
Oh, my goodness. Well, if you're somebody that loves Trump, I don't want to be associated with you. Anyway, Brian, first of all, I want everybody today, please, take 10 seconds out of your life today and don't do nothing in remembrance to the police officers that did get beat and got killed on January the 6th, because I think we owe that to them. And I am so sorry, police officers, because I stand behind you 100%.
Sure.
And second of all, Brian, what I don't understand about Al is he already knows everything that's happened.
Yep.
Why is he still a Trump person? Al, you already know that they were sitting there saying, hang Mike Pence. I mean, wouldn't that be enough not for you to vote for Donald Trump?
I agree.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah, I agree. You know, Darlene, maybe you can speak to this, but there are some trolls on social media. There's plenty of them out there, but there's some that say, I have Trump derangement syndrome. You have Trump derangement syndrome. Now, my response to that is you have Trump fellatio syndrome. They wear the Donald Trump knee pads 24/7. I'm sorry that I can call out, who is a liable sexual abuser and a 34-count felon. That means I'm aware of my surroundings. They have Trump fellatio syndrome, and they're also not smart enough to be able to have a conversation and call into this show. So they have TFS. So for all the people out there that are saying that I have Trump derangement syndrome, you can go screw yourself. You have TFS.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
And I'm going to put it, everybody close your ears, because I'm getting ready to put it bluntly. When I found out that Donald Trump had won and going to be the president, I put it in my Facebook, and this is exactly what I said. I said, I'll be damned if that man is going to ever grab my pussy. And that's exactly what I said.
Well,
I lost some of my friends over this, but you know what? They must not have been my friends to begin with, because I'll be damned if he ever does that to me.
Well, I think there's a lot of women out there that have that same feeling you have, including Melania Trump. I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Darlene, the MAGA Destroyer. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Wendy. Wendy is next up on PTL. The MAGAs are afraid to call in today.
Hi, Brian.
Hi, Wendy. What's going on?
How are you?
Good. Thanks for calling in, Wendy.
Okay, of course. So I listen every day, and I finally got my courage up. I dropped a friend of over 60 years due to this whole election. My family is Puerto Rican, and my parents were disabled. So anybody that could vote for a man that made fun and said horrible things about them are not my friend.
I agree.
That's number one. And they can't believe I dropped them. They don't get it. But what I want to say is, why isn't anyone talking about the rigging of the election? We know that Ilana and Putina had something to do with it.
Well, let me
I don't understand.
Well, here's what I would say to that. I like your nicknames. If somebody can present me actual, real, widespread evidence, then I certainly would entertain that. Now, what Elon Musk did in paying millions of dollars out to people, in my opinion, is illegal. Now, certainly Elon Musk had an influence on the elections. There's no question about that. But I also think it's dangerous to use the term "it was stolen," because that's what MAGA did in 2020. Now, I know you're not storming the Capitol and you're not resorting to violence, which I appreciate. But if somebody can present actual, real evidence other than hearsay, then I'm certainly willing to listen to that. But I haven't seen any real evidence to prove that there was any widespread voter fraud. And I say the same thing about 2020. And I think it's important to be consistent. What I will tell you is that the Democrats didn't storm the Capitol. There wasn't an insurrection today. There weren't fake electorates all across the country. Kamala Harris did her job, and she did it with dignity and class, like I would expect her to do. And the Republicans only love the country if their guy wins. You know, that's what Hakeem Jeffrey says. Whether you win or lose, you accept it with dignity and class. And that's something that the MAGA right have failed to do, my dear. But if you have any evidence you want to share with us next time, please present it and I'll listen to it. Thank you for the call. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Jack. Jack is next up on PTL. Hey, Jack, what's going on, man?
Hey, Brian, what's up, man? Hey, just watching the ceremony today was just disgusting. Like it's just something to watch Republicans and MAGA. Like, we want a peaceful transfer. And I mean, 4 years ago, when you watched that, no one was saying anything like that. These people just, when they don't, and it's like almost like they want to masturbate watching Kamala, certify the electoral votes. Yeah. And, when Biden had Trump in and everything, they don't understand that's the right thing to do. And they like, it's like they get off on it watching it. It like turns your stomach. That
these are sick people. These are sick people. And let me give you an example of what you're speaking of. People getting off. When Senator Deb Fischer's husband, a old crusty white MAGA bigot, decided not to shake the hand of Kamala Harris, those on the far right loved it. They look up to him like a hero, just like they look up to the Kyle Rittenhouses of the world, the George Zimmermans of the world, the McCloskeys of the world, and the Daniel Pennies of the world. These are who the people on the far right look up to. This guy will probably be a star within the Republican Party, and they'll probably push him to run for office because what a great thing he did, according to the MAGA right. He refused to shake the hand of our vice president, who happens to be a mixed race minority female. And we all know how the MAGA supporters feel about those people, don't we?
Yeah. And while all this is going on, you got somebody down in Florida, I think, refusing to fly the flag at half mast for
Jimmy Carter,
President Carter. Yeah. And you got Trump on Truth Social bitching that the flags will be at half staff for his inauguration. Like
it's so sick. It's so sick.
It's like they want you to they want you to follow letter by letter.
He's making it sound like, and when I mean he, I mean the orange orangutan. He's making it sound like the Democrats wanted it, the flag at half staff because it makes Trump look bad. But what he's so stupid and deranged, he doesn't realize it's because we lost a former president and a decent, good man who served this country honorably as not just serving us as its sense in the military, but as president. And Donald Trump again wants to make it all about himself. Oh, the Democrats want to make me look bad and they want the flag down. No, it's because Jimmy Carter died, you orange orangutan fool, you.
Just a total narcissist, man. Like it's insanity. And I know we're talking about the January 6th today, Brian, but eventually sometime during this week, if you could bring up this is a little off topic, but the Robert Brooks, I don't know if you've followed that or.
I have a little bit. We'll probably definitely get to that a little bit later on in the show, but I am glad that, or maybe later on this week, but I am glad you mentioned as far as later on in the show, Charlene Riddle missed the attacker in New Orleans by a few feet. Her husband saved her life. It's all on video. She's going to be joining us on the show tomorrow. And what a great follow on social media. Aaron Rupert is going to be joining us. He's got a gazillion followers on Twitter. Great political commentary. He's going to be joining us on the show tomorrow as well. But I might get to that later on in the week. All right, where are all my MAGA? It's interesting, right? They'll talk a tough game on social media, but they just can't find it within themselves to take their little Trump orange orangutan fingers on their Obama phone and call into the show and tell me why they think I have Trump derangement syndrome. They're not smart enough to be able to have a conversation about policy. Now, maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong before. Prove me wrong and tell me why you think January 6th was not a big deal. Tell me why you think Deb Fischer's husband not shaking Kamala Harris's hand it's not a big deal to you. Tell me why. Now, any 5-year-old can go on social media and type something, but let's see if you're smart enough to call in and have a discussion with me about it on the air. I would be willing to make a bet that you're not. But the number to call is 702-221-7283. Again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. Let's go to Mark. Mark is next up on PTL. Hey, Mark, what's going on?
Good afternoon, Brian.
What's up, Mark?
I have a few questions for you. But first, I want to ask all the MAGA people out there, like MAGA Patricia's Time and Tony Corelli, who makes $16.80 a month in Social Security and claims he's a big shot. You got to ask yourself if what Trump has stated is true, that Antifa stormed the Capitol. Why would Trump pardon them? Now, my question to you, Brian, you keep claiming that the election wasn't stolen. And I can understand it's a big word, stolen, but I have a few questions. Number one, do you believe that Russia had any influence on the election? Yes or no?
Yeah, I think they
Okay.
it's certainly possible.
That's one
Sure.
yes. All right, Elon Musk, did he have an influence on the election?
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that, but I think there's a difference between
Okay,
possibly
wait a
having
minute.
an influence and saying that the election was stolen.
Now, here's another one. What about all those bomb threats for just 39, just in Georgia alone, just in blue districts in every swing state? Did that have an influence on the election?
I don't think that would have changed the outcome. No, we could be talking
You
about
don't think
we could be talking about a few thousand votes,
Billy-
but here's the problem with what you're bringing up here. Okay, I'm not saying that
Sure.
didn't necessarily sway some votes. Sure. But we have to be talking about a lot of votes to have evidence. And listen, I do believe Elon Musk probably broke the law, but the problem was he wasn't charged with any crimes, right? We have to have actual crimes proven in a courtroom, and we have to have actual, real, widespread voter fraud evidence in order
But
for a
Brian-
judge to entertain it.
Brian.
Mm-hmm.
The Secretary of State in Philly, in Pennsylvania, stated that thousands of people left the voting lines in Philly and never returned.
Let's say that's 150% true. Let's just say thousands of people, thousands, I don't know, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. Kamala Harris still loses the election. Even if she wins Pennsylvania, she still loses the election. Mark, I understand your concerns, but you have to be able to present evidence in a court of law for a judge to even look at it. And if that does happen, I welcome it. Donald Trump had 62 opportunities and he failed. The Democrats haven't put forth anything. So I understand what you're saying, but I think that's a very slippery slope to go down that road, my friend. 702-221-7283. Chandler is next up on PTL. Hello, Chandler.
Hey there, Brian. How you doing, man?
Hey.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. What's on your mind, Chandler?
It's just this day, January 6th. I mean, 4 years. It's hard to believe it's been that long. I mean, I remember where I was. I mean, I was in school. It was my second year of high school, and I had no clue about what was happening until, we were in like the study hall, which basically means, we could just, catch up and like study up on like some sort of test that we would have, coming that week. But I didn't have anything to study for, so I just,
How old are you right
went
now?
on.
How old are you?
I'm 20 years old.
Gotcha.
I turned 20 this past November.
Gotcha. Who did you vote for, if you don't mind me asking?
Harris. I voted for Harris, because, what happened with January 6th and Donald Trump and the crazy things that have happened, prior to him becoming president.
Why do you think she did not get a lot of votes from people your age? Why do you think that the young vote was won by Donald Trump for the most part?
I think, it's mostly, how do I answer that?
I mean, I can give you my opinions on it, but I'm interested in yours because you're 20 years old, right? I think that a lot of people watch, a lot of podcasts and young, social media and all that stuff. And I thought the Harris campaign did not do a good job. There's a lot of reasons why Kamala Harris lost. But I do find it interesting that January 6th, not interesting, I find it to be pleasant to hear that, January 6th was a big factor for you and why you didn't vote for Donald Trump. I'm just amazed. What would you say? Let me ask it another way. What would you say to all the people out there, not just young people, but just people in this country in general that have no problem reelecting Donald Trump when we know January 6th happened because of him? He was the one who said that the election was stolen, right? What would you say to those people?
They need to wake up. I mean, they need to look at the facts. They need to stop, pay attention to the right-wing, like propaganda media, like Fox News and so many other, like, crazy stuff. And, like, and still today, there's people, downplaying January 6th, calling it, saying that the FBI was involved, which there was no clear evidence that they were.
Right.
They said that Antifa was involved. Absolutely not.
Right.
Basically, what I'm saying is these people just need a really big slap to the face or a bucket of water splashed on them.
Well, we definitely don't want to smack people in the face unless you're using that as a metaphor. But they certainly need to be educated, and they're very ill-informed, like people on social media that are saying he said peacefully and patriotically. You see, it doesn't matter whether he said peaceful and patriotic. He lied. As you know, he lied about the election. He said it was stolen. He said Joe Biden and the Democrats cheated. Whether he said peaceful and patriotically is irrelevant. You don't have to say go to the Capitol, break in and storm the Capitol and try to overthrow it in order for him to have incited it. And people don't seem to have a problem. When I say people, I'm not talking about people like you, my friend, and I appreciate the call. I'm talking about MAGA supporters on the far right don't seem to think it was a big deal what happened on January 6th. And their orange orangutan leader wants to pardon all those that were responsible for what took place on that fateful day where people died. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Shelley. Shelley is next on PTL. What's up, Shelley?
Hey, Brian. How many different stories did we hear about January 6th? About
a lot.
5 different ones?
Yeah, a lot.
And like you said, Donald Trump lied the entire time, working his base up, getting pissed off, and he put out that tweet, come to D.C., we'll be wild. So he knew what he was doing, and I feel so horrible for those police officers' families.
As I do as well. It's a terrible...
And we all should take a moment, like Darlene said, and honor their service.
I'm going to say I agree with you. I also feel bad for Ashley Babbitt's families as well.
I do too, but she brought that on herself.
Absolutely. I wouldn't say it any differently. I agree with you. She put herself in that position, and she got what was coming to her. If you do stupid things, we win stupid prizes. And
exactly, stupid is as stupid does.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And people had heart attacks that day as well. And whether they believed Donald Trump won the election or not, I feel bad for them and their families as well. There were several people that had medical episodes that day. It was a very, very bad day for the country
in this country.
And Donald Trump is calling those responsible patriots and hostages. And I don't know how anybody. I want to read to you something now that I have you on the air here. I want to read. I want to read to you verbatim.
Oh no, it's somebody on the chat, right?
Nope. I want to read you what Speaker Mike Johnson said 4 years ago. You ready for this?
Okay, go ahead.
This is what Mike Johnson said January 6th, 2021. I am going to read it verbatim. Quote, I am unambiguously condemning in the strongest possible terms any and all forms of violent protest. Any individual who committed violence today should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. It is beyond time to remember that while we may disagree, we are all Americans, and there is far more that unites us than divides us. I extend my deepest thanks to the United States Capitol Police for protecting the Capitol complex today and all days. What a complete 180. Those are
nice of him to tell the truth.
That is exactly what Mike Johnson said. Kevin McCarthy the next day said that Donald Trump should bear some responsibility. Now today, Mike Johnson would never say that. And the reason why he would never say that is because Donald Trump would be upset at him. And he would
maybe spank him.
Yeah. This is the way.
He may get a spanking.
Yeah, he probably would enjoy that. Many MAGA Republicans on that day felt and probably still feel deep down inside the way that Speaker Mike Johnson felt on January 6th. But
Mitch McConnell.
Right, but the only reason why many of them will not say that publicly today is because the orange orangutan has a stronghold on the Republican Party, and they have no backbone, and they're scared. That's why. Yeah.
I don't see how they stand up straight.
Yeah, that's a good point, my dear. I appreciate you calling in. It's good to hear from you. Thank you so much. Where are my MAGA Republicans today? Boy, it's interesting. Maybe it's just a coincidence that on the 4-year anniversary of January 6th, some of them they find it difficult to raise those little Trump fingers and call in. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Bev. Bev is next up. What's up, Bev?
Hey, Brian. One of your callers already hit on what I was going to say, which was Trump crying about the flags being at half-mast for the great President Carter.
Yes.
But I think that half of the world, not just your country, half of the world is mourning the fact that he's going to be inaugurated again. So it's kind of suiting that they're at half-mast. And if I'm correct, Ashley was the one who used a police shield, which she must have gotten after a police officer was maced or something, or beaten, that she used to break the window. And once she got it broken enough to step through, an officer on the inside pointed a gun at her and said, "Stop, stop, stop."
Right.
And she did not. So, I mean, that was unfortunate for her.
It's unfortunate,
but she did not stop.
But she did it to herself. And, like many others in this country, I respect Ashley Babbitt's service, but she was brainwashed into believing everything that the far right, and make no mistake about it, it's not just Donald Trump that helped brainwash an Ashley Babbitt and why she's 6 feet underneath the ground.
Fox News, too.
Yeah, it's Fox News or Fox Noise, it's OAN, it's Newsmax, it's the Sean Hannitys of the world, the Mark Levins of the world. And that is why Ted Koppel said it best. A guy like Sean Hannity is dangerous because it helps people like Ashley Babbitt become brainwashed into believing everything that the orange orangutan felon says.
Yeah. And just one last thing. When you were talking to Al, I was convinced it was either Herb or Patrick using a different name. But you called him Al so many times through the conversation that I just came to the conclusion that all MAGA sound the same when they're speaking.
Well, Donald Trump didn't quite think it through, did he? When he said, inject yourself with disinfectant, he didn't quite think it through. When he said that Joe Biden cheated and he won in a landslide, maybe he just didn't quite think it through when he talked about grabbing women by the genitals. Maybe he didn't think it through when he talks about Hannibal Lecter and electrocuting sharks. Maybe he just didn't think it through when he said Kamala Harris turned black. That must be an excuse. That's a fair excuse. He just didn't think it through. Oh, my God, these people.
He doesn't think anything through.
No,
but anyway.
He certainly doesn't, and neither did Melania Trump. Neither did Melania Trump when she said, "I do." That's for sure. Or any of his other ex-wives. Thank you for the call. Well, maybe Melania did think it through. No, you know what? Ladies and gentlemen, I do make a mistake from time to time. I take that back with all due respect to Melania Trump. Well, wait a second. I don't have any respect for her at all. There's no question Melania Trump was thinking green when she decided to marry Donald Trump. She certainly wasn't thinking about what Donald Trump looks like naked. She was thinking about green. She was thinking about money, and that's why she's thinking about money now, and that's why she's still in this contractual marriage, and it's why she sells her piece of crap $90 Christmas ornaments that are made in China for $3 for $90. She thought it through. I'll give her credit for that. There's no question. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Rick. Who are we going to first? We're going to Carl. Okay. My producer says we're going to Carl. Carl, what's up?
Yeah, hey, buddy. Hope you're having a good New Year's. Anyway, listen, I'm an animal lover, and I have to complain about one thing. The way you call him an orange orangutan.
Yeah.
But putting down orangutans will definitely have at least 30 more points on their IQ than he does.
That's true. My apologies to the orangutan family, not the Trump family, not that orangutan family. You're right. I apologize to orangutans. I enjoy watching them at zoos, and you're right. So I apologize to the orangutan family. You're right. I agree.
There you go.
Yeah.
And the final point, you probably talked about it. I just got in early, but late, But the difference between this inauguration and the last one is such a difference. The Democrats, they're not complaining about it. They're accepting it. They're saying it's true, it's real.
Yep.
And look what happened last time.
Carl, I don't.
Can't see the difference.
Carl, I agree. But many MAGA Republicans can't see the difference. They can't see through his 8 layers of orange makeup either. Thank you for the call, Carl. All right, 702-221-7283. Let's go to Rick.
Hi, Brian.
Rick is next on PTL. What's up, Rick?
I was wondering about what you guys think of Antifa.
What do I think?
What do you think it means?
What do I think Antifa means? Is that your question, Rick?
Correct.
Well, so I have no problem answering your question, but what does that have to do with January 6th? Can you help me out there, Rick?
Actually, nothing. But it really upsets me.
Yeah.
That people think negatively about Antifa.
Well, let me be clear. Any group that
anti-fascism.
Well, I understand what it means, but there are some in Antifa that have committed violent acts. So let me be clear on this. Anybody from any group that resorts to violence and is not capable of peacefully protesting is wrong, and they should be called out. Now, Antifa wasn't responsible for January 6th, but what does Antifa mean to me? I don't know anybody that's in Antifa. I probably don't want to know anybody that's in Antifa. I don't want to know anybody that's in any group that would promote any sort of violence at all in general. But what we do know is that it was the Oath Keepers, it was the Proud Boys, and it was right-wing violent extremist groups, many of whom were there and partially responsible for what took place on January 6th. And those are the kinds of people that Donald Trump tells to stand back and stand by. Can you imagine if Joe Biden was asked about Antifa and in a presidential debate, he told them to stand back and stand by? Make no mistake about it, Nick Fuentes and Kanye West are the type of Hitler lovers that Donald Trump invites to the White House to wine and dine them. So
I agree.
Yeah. So,
Antifa means anti-fascist.
No, I get it. I understand that, and fascist is a bad thing. That might be what it means, but if the Proud Boys said Proud Boy means proud to be one of the boys, that wouldn't mean that we would defend the Proud Boys either, because the Proud Boys are a white supremacist hate group, and we know that for sure. Appreciate the call. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let my producer decide on this one. All right, let's go to Joseph. Joseph is next. What's up, Joseph?
Yeah, hey, Brian. First of all, it's been a while since I talked to the show after the election. Still calling from California, and here's my piece.
Okay.
Hearing Trump talking about the half-mast flags for Jimmy Carter goes to show that Trump does not care about Jimmy Carter. He always thinks of other former presidents as suckers and losers.
Correct.
That's why, and also speaking of the January 6th riot pardons, it goes to show that all that Trump is doing is trying to released some criminals, and it's going to make ordinary people like you and me and everybody around to deal with these criminals. I mean, can you imagine what happens if they are pardoned and what they're going to say to the survivors who are Capitol Police officers in that day?
Oh.
I mean, it's going to be terrible, disturbing, and disgusting, thinking they're going to say, we won, you lose. That's how it is.
Can you imagine? I didn't even think about that, Joseph. Can you imagine if you're a family member that lost a loved one? You could be somebody in Brian Sitnick's family, and I mentioned some of the other Capitol Police officers, one who committed suicide several days later. Can you imagine if you're a member of one of those families, the day that some of those insurrectionists and some of those people who beat members of your family are pardoned by Donald Trump? Can you imagine what you'll be feeling on that day?
Oh, I 100% agree on that, because that's what Trump thinks. He doesn't care about the Capitol Police officers who committed suicide. He's still going to call them suckers and losers. But for those other fellow officers who survived, those are real heroes, not like those Trump-supporting dirtbags.
And it is interesting, isn't it? Because he'd never call insurrectionist terrorists suckers and losers. But I do find it very interesting that when it comes to our brave men and women in uniform, he has no problem crapping on them, calling them suckers and losers. Or John McCain, I don't respect him because he was captured. Joseph, it is good to hear from you, my friend. Please call back soon. Be safe out there in California. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Mary. Mary's next on PTL. What's up, Mary?
Yeah, well, first of all, I've got to say I'm embarrassed because I'm actually from Nebraska.
Oh.
And I'll behave myself and not swear, but Deb Fischer's a flaming piece of crap.
Mm-hmm.
I've always known she's a flaming piece of crap. And the sad thing is, we had a wonderful human being called Preston Love who ran in his place, and believe me, his wife has so much class. She would have shook Kamala's hand. She's also black, so of course she would have been thrilled to shake her hand, but this man has class, he has integrity, he sends kids to D.C., coming all across the right to see.
So can I ask you? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to give people a little background, and then I want you to continue being from Nebraska. So what this lady is talking about is Nebraska Senator Deb Fischer in Washington D.C. today being sworn in, and her husband, who is in my opinion, crusty old white racist bigot MAGA Republican, refused to shake the hand of Kamala Harris while his wife was being sworn in, and this lady calling in now is from Nebraska. Can you tell us, do you know anything about Deb Fischer's husband, his history? Because I don't.
I know nothing about the husband. I just know that she is a horrible human being.
Mm-hmm.
She, we have very little public land in Nebraska, and she's one of the reasons that we don't have public land. I know that she didn't, like most of the times you can show up and then you show up and you ask questions and you promote things. She's never done a public meeting.
So it sounds to me that you're not surprised at all that her husband would be despicable as well. Is that kind of what you're saying?
No, I mean, she's a despicable human being. I mean,
can I ask you? It doesn't surprise me because when I saw that video today for the first time when I got to work, the first thing that entered my mind was bigot, racist, won't shake her hand because she's a woman of color. I don't think it had anything to do with policy. I think it had everything to do with the color of her skin. That's my opinion. Why do you think he decided not to shake her hand?
I'm having a tantrum. I don't know. They're just not good people, and they have no class. So I can't tell you why he did it. I wouldn't be surprised if it was racism.
Yeah.
But like she's just you've ever seen a picture of her? She's literally the picture of a cold you know the things cold prickly and the warm fuzzy.
Yeah.
She is a living embodiment of a cold prickly.
Well, you're not alone because Mikey on social media says, I'm from Nebraska. I live in Nebraska. She's not very popular here, and I don't know how she got reelected. So kind of like I don't know how Donald Trump got, reelected. But,
Right.
Stupid is what stupid does, right? I guess that's the best way to describe it, according to Forrest Gump. Well, I appreciate you calling in, my dear. We're going to continue to call her out and her stupid husband. Yes, they do appear to be despicable people. Can you imagine? Your wife is getting sworn in, holding the Bible, and the vice president decides to put out her hand graciously to shake your hand and congratulate, and you refuse to shake her hand. That guy probably will be headed to his Grand Wizard clan meeting tonight. 702-221-7283. John is next. Hey, John, what's going on?
Hi, sir. I have a question for you real quick. Is it too late to invoke the 14th Amendment?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask that question to.
I wish it wasn't, to be honest with you.
Well, listen, here's the I hear what you're saying, my friend, but here's unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because I'm pretty sure we're on the same side here. Unfortunately,
We are, believe me.
Unfortunately, Donald Trump is going to be the president here in a few weeks.
I know.
And
I hate it. You know why, sir?
I know.
Not to interrupt you, but the day that the inauguration, that's my birthday.
Oh, wow. That's not a good birthday present. Well,
no, it's not, sir. Not.
So here's what we have to do. And I've talked about this a lot. We have to do things in life that make us happy. Friends, family.
I know.
Okay. And we need to, or at least my promise to all of you is I will be on the air every day. It doesn't mean every day I'm going to be talking about Donald Trump because that'll just make me crazy among other people. But, we need to call out the important issues that America cares about. And I will do that every day. And I will call out and I will hold him to account, as I always do. The war in the Ukraine apparently is going to be over January 21st. He said the war would be over in 24 hours. Apparently, there's going to be peace in the Middle East. He said he'd be able to take care of that. He did say when he was campaigning that inflation would drop way down when he was president. Now he's already walking that back. But, he did say that he was going to, they're going to deport 20 million people. I don't think they're going to do that. But, hey, you know what? We will have to wait and see what happens, my friend. I think we had an issue with your line. You're welcome to call back, 702-221-7283. Let's go to Paul. Paul is next up on PTL. Hey, Paul, what's going on, man?
Hey, man. I remember watching January 6th when people were storming the Capitol and telling my wife, like, you need to watch this. And she said, what? I'm like, these people are rioting the Capitol. They're beating police officers and breaking windows. And, it's just officers were stabbed with, metal stakes. They had concussions, PTSD. Brian Sicknick lost his life.
Right.
I mean, it's just Trump is just a symptom of the problem with this country, Brian. That's really what this is about. We can blame Trump, but he's just a symbol of the racism, the rape, the incest, the comments about dating his daughter when she's 10 years older, the stealing of top secret, the infidelities. None of it matters to them, Brian. I mean, the reality is they're just awful human beings. I mean, how do these people as Christians say, yeah, January 6th was Antifa and George Soros, I have no facts? They're absolute idiots. I listen to these interviews, and they are the stupidest people that God has created. It's sad that this country is full of so many idiots.
You're right.
And I'm with you.
You're right.
I'm a Democrat, but I'm going to call out Joe Biden when I don't agree with them, or Kamala Harris, or Bush, or whoever it is. These people don't criticize him because he is their Messiah. He's their Antichrist. And they justify the rape, the incest. None of it's real. I mean, can you imagine living in a reality where everything is fake except for what Jim Jones tells you?
Yeah.
This is where we are as a country, Brian. It's really pathetic and sad. And I'm not going to find middle ground with people that are fine with raping a woman. It's not okay. It's disgusting.
It is disgusting. And there are still a large portion of Republicans in this country that think January 6th was nothing more, nothing less than a tourist visit. There are people in this country that have no problem with pardoning all that were involved in January 6th. There are still people in this country that think what Vivek Ramaswamy says, the snake oil salesman himself, that it was an inside job. And sadly, there are Republicans in this country that think it was great to see an old crusty Republican not shake the hand of the vice president as his wife is being sworn in. These are horrible human beings, many of them bigoted in nature, and I call them out all the time on this show.
The last thing I'll say is this for everyone that's listening. The last two things that happened in New Orleans and Las Vegas, they were U.S. citizens. George Floyd, those officers were U.S. citizens.
Correct.
The 944 people that were arrested for storming the Capitol and beating police officers, I know it's shocking to you guys, they were not undocumented immigrants. They were U.S. citizens.
And Trump supporters.
Shocking. Right, Trump supporters. So are we supposed to deport Trump supporters because they're domestic terrorists?
I'm okay with that.
By their version of terrorism, that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But that doesn't fit their narrative of blame the non-white people, and it's okay if you're white and you commit. Can you imagine, Brian, last thing, if John Lewis, after getting beaten for wanting to vote by crossing the bridge, if he and his brothers and sisters stormed the Capitol, can you imagine? They wouldn't be alive today.
You're right.
They would have murdered all of them.
You're right. I will say this,
Imagine
though.
that.
I would love nothing better than to have all these huge MAGA supporters get deported and live in a cave in Afghanistan. Have them all move to Gaza. Have them all move, have them all go with Tulsi Gabbard on a plane. We'll give them brochures like Ron DeSantis did to all those migrants and send them to Vladimir Putin, send them to Russia. All these MAGA deplorables, send them all to Russia. Thank you for the call, Paul. 702-221-7283. The MAGAs are really quiet today. It's interesting on this day. Let's go to Richard. Richard is next on PTL. Hello, Richard.
Hey, Brian. How you doing?
Hey, what's up, man? What's on your mind?
I just want to bring up something, but I'm a little old for this. I haven't called in ever, but now I found your show, and I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Because I became independent after Gingrich and Rush Limbaugh and all them started taking over the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember.
I do, and Rush Limbaugh, was given the Medal of Freedom, if you remember, and all these MAGA Republicans out there have a problem with Michael J. Fox getting the award. They're such morons. It's crazy.
Well, according to them, their civilian award outdoes the military award.
Yeah.
According to them.
Yep.
I just want to bring the facts about security. I did notice a pattern of females who aren't given the job of doing security, but blamed for security. Mm-hmm. So Miss Clinton, Benghazi, was given the credit for security at the embassy when the Republicans denied the budget for security for all the embassies.
Yeah.
Then you got Miss Harris, was security czar in the communist term, was in charge of the border.
And do you remember the 9 investigations into Benghazi that Republicans led, and they found absolutely nothing? I want to share something quickly with you. There's somebody on social media. You mentioned Rush Limbaugh, and the guy on social media said, "Rush Limbaugh lives on." Let me be very clear to that individual who made that statement. Rush Limbaugh is dead. Rush Limbaugh is burning in hell where he belongs. He was a bigot then, and I'm sure he'll be a bigot in hell. He's listening to drag queen reading right now, 24/7, and everybody in that room is taking painkillers but him. Rush Limbaugh is very dead, and as bad as he probably looks right now on the outside, that's how disgusting he was on the inside. So I want to be very clear to that person who said Rush Limbaugh lives on. No, he doesn't. All his bigotry and his hatred are dead, and he is dead, and he might have died of cancer, but he was a cancer to society. And anybody who looked up to Rush Limbaugh as some sort of hero is just as bad as him. I want to be very clear on that. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the show. Let's go to Patrick. Patrick is next. What's up, Patrick?
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Okay. Number one, this is my first time that I've actually been able to participate in your show. So thank you very much for what you're doing.
Sure. Thank you.
I guess my question is, because depending on what you read, right, on, whose podcast or what have you, but today, as you said, it's, kind of the anniversary of, it's my understanding, or at least I've seen a lot about the fact that Section 3 of Article 14 indicates that someone who is either associated with or, guilty of insurrection cannot hold office. Yeah. And that anyone, that the people that are, quote unquote, what's the word, approving his election are, in a sense, aren't they breaking their oath?
Well, so I hear what you're saying, and I think one could make the argument that he did incite insurrection. I'm still here. Jack Smith, decided, and it wouldn't have made a difference at this point because Donald Trump was reelected, but Jack Smith decided not to charge him with incitement. Yes, I agree with you in what you're saying, but what type of country do we live in that you can be a 34-count convicted felon and still run for president, let alone hold office again? I think that's even a bigger question, that we need to ask ourselves. So listen, this is the 4-year anniversary. I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. in holding Donald Trump's feet to the fire if he's not kissing the feet of Elon Musk. But here's what I would ask all of you do for me. And by the way, tomorrow on the show, we got a big show lined up for you. We have a lovely lady joining us on the show tomorrow. I saw the video where she was literally a foot away from losing her life. She was on the Canal Street in New Orleans, and her husband pushes her out of the way at the last second. He's a hero, saves her life. Charlene Riddle is her name. She's going to be joining us on the show tomorrow. And one of my favorite social media follows. He's so great. His political commentary is great. His clips are great. Aaron Rupert's going to be joining us on the show tomorrow as well. So big show lined up for you tomorrow. So this is an independently owned radio show. What does that mean? It means we rely on people like you to leave the lights on. So what can you do for us? First thing's free, right? Well, a couple things that are free. Subscribe to my YouTube page, which is at PTL Radio Show. We put extra content up there every single day. Subscribe, give me the thumbs up, comments. We want you to be interactive at PTL Radio Show. Go to my website, also free, pushingthelimits.live. Now, we do sell merchandise up there, PTL gear, hats, shirts, you name it, we sell it. We also accept donations. You go to the front page of pushingthelimits.live where you can donate. So please check that out and help us out and help support what we do. We appreciate all of you, and spread the word. This is an ever-growing national show, heard all over the country. Thank goodness for all the platforms that we are on, including the Occupy Democrats Network, the Washington Press Network, Proud Democrats. We're, of course, also on X. We're on YouTube at PTL Radio Show. We're on Twitch. We're also on the local FM AM radio dial here locally in Las Vegas, and we're working on getting on a couple more platforms. As I mentioned before, in 2025, we're in talks in doing that as well. So we're really proud the direction that the show has been going, and we're going to continue to be moving in that direction, and I couldn't be more happier. So thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. We will be back tomorrow. My thanks to Don Lemon. Isn't he the best? What did he call himself? Dark Lemon is what his new nickname. I thought that was funny. All right. We'll do it again tomorrow. 22-hour break, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout.